Welcome to another tutorial in our ongoing series about using Zotero. This is Liz Faboda, the Instruction and Outreach Librarian here at the Flint Thompson Library, and today we're going to be talking about note-taking in Zotero. So there are a few different methods for taking notes in Zotero, and we're going to cover all of them individually, but one is to add annotations to the extra field on individual citation entries, and this is the best way if you need to report an annotated bibliography to kind of add those annotations in. Additionally, you can add notes to individual citation entries. This is especially useful if you are not using Zotero as a storage option for your PDFs. If you're instead storing them in Google Drive or you're on your desktop or something, but you still want to kind of use Zotero as a note-taking function. And then finally, if you are using Zotero as a storage for your PDFs and other attached research, you can actually add highlights, notes, and drawings to those PDFs or snapshots attached to individual citations. So let's take a look at how to do all three of these things. We're going to start by adding an annotation to a journal article. So I've got my journal article highlighted here in the middle pane, and then over on the information side you'll see all of the different information that is related to this source, including title, publisher, and then down below you'll see that we have in this extra field, I've already written an annotation, a sentence showing, kind of what is going on with this study. So this is where you're going to want to put any annotation that you want. Now, sometimes there will be information that is put into this extra field when you import references, but you are always able to change that, delete it out, add your own annotation as well. So this is again something just to be aware of when you are going to be putting things out into an annotated bibliography, to make sure that that extra field is what you want it to be. So the second way to add notes to an item in Zotero is going to be to add them through the note-taking function attached to each of these individual citations. So in order to do that, I'm going to shrink up the info section over here, and then you'll notice that there are additional sections of information associated with this individual citation. So you'll see that I have a couple of attachments, and then I do not have any notes. But if I go ahead and click Add Note, I am able to go in and add a note about, looking at paraphrasing a section or adding different sections that I want to possibly use in my paper. And then this note kind of lives independently of the citation, so you'll note that it is available there, and you'll see another note here that I've taken is a full direct quotation from this article, and it includes that in-text citation. And I do actually have the ability to change the text and the heading a little bit more and even kind of work within this note if I'd wanted to. Now, if there is a note that I don't need anymore or don't want, I can always move this to trash. So these are, again, completely independent of the attachment or that extra field on the information tab here. The final way to add notes or any kind of note-taking function in Zotero is to actually do so directly on the PDF that you have as an attachment. You'll notice that multiple citations in this collection have attachments on it to have a PDF directly attached. One has a snapshot of a web page that I'm looking at. So if I wanted to open any of these, all I would need to do is double click on here, and it would open up in a tab like this. Now you'll notice that while I'm in here, it is pulling up notations that I've already done. So either this is a highlight or this is going to be a little note that I've already taken. So opening this up, you can see that here on page 10 of the PDF, I have actually already made a highlight, and then I've added a little sticky note kind of note-taking, very similar to something you'd see in Adobe. And up at the very top here is where you can actually highlight and underline. You can even select a section. So for example, if I wanted to make a larger section here and kind of note the text and highlight this text in this way, you can do that. It's kind of up to you and your preferences on how your brain works, but those are all reflected in this information pane when you have the full text PDF highlighted. Okay. Similarly, with a snapshot, if there's anything that you've done to a snapshot of like a website, it will show up here. But I can also go through and say I want to highlight a section here of text. So for example, I can grab this second bullet item here and highlight it, and again I can actually do a couple of different things. I could change the color of the highlight, I can add a note or a comment to this highlight, I can even convert to an underline or delete this from this section by right clicking. You'll notice that the options are not as robust with a snapshot as they are with an attached PDF, and that's just a function of having a JPEG attached versus an editable document in some way. But again, once we go back into the snapshot, any annotations I make on that snapshot and on that PDF will show up here. Now, if you don't want your annotations and notes to be completely separate from the citation, and you actually do want to see them in the note field that's kind of attached to a citation here, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. Instead of clicking down into the PDF and clicking it individually, you can actually add them as notes to that citation. So if I right click on the PDF full text, I have this option to add note from annotations. And what this will do is it will create on on the citation itself, in its kind of note field here, a note that will include all of the different annotations that I've highlighted, including the in-text citation and the page number as to what it is. This is one way to do it. There's really isn't any kind of differentiation between what is highlighted versus what is a comment or anything on here. The other thing to note is that this will pull all of the annotations that you have on that PDF into one solid note. So again, if you just kind of want to see them at a glance, this is one really good way to do that. However, back on the PDF reader here, you'll see that there is this item note here, but you can also create individual item notes as well. So if you wanted to add an item note here, you can just do that, add item note from annotations and pull them all in. But if you wanted to kind of group your annotations by a theme or by kind of a section of your paper, you can do that. So you have this, you open up a new note here, and you can either drag and drop different annotations that you've created here from the far left side panel onto that note panel, or you can actually go ahead and right click on the annotation that you'd want and then add it to your note as well. And then when I go back into my panel here, you'll see that there are going to be some additional notes added to my citation. So there's this full annotation list of annotations that I pulled through, but there's also going to be these individual quotes, and I can always go ahead and edit these to give myself a little bit more context about what I want to use, or if I needed to edit them because they have an error in the text or something like this, I can edit those as well. So those were 3 quick ways to take notes in Zotero. Remember to ask a librarian if you have any questions.